Today we support our homestead here in Romania through the work I do for a company in America. In a couple years, I fully expect AI to take over that job. In this video, I'd like to show you what I'm doing to prepare us for that time when AI takes over.
No, will AI take over my job? I think it will. There's a bunch of smarter people than me that say it will. Kind of expect it will. And my job is the primary source of income for our home. And whenever you have 3 children, 3 small girls like I do, and another boy on the way, and a wife that depend on you, you need to do something. You need to think about the future. And for me, I think I've got probably 2 years max left in my job. So what am I going to do? How am I going to support them after this? And that's what I'd like to kind of explore in this video. What I'm doing to set myself or ourselves up, what we're doing to set ourselves up for a future where our main source of income is totally gone. And we have to support ourselves with the homestead or with things we do around here. So there's 2 ways I think that I kind of look at this, and that's one reason too I'd like to make this video is that if you have any good ideas, help us out. Drop a comment, tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, and then we can kind of learn together. I'd also be very interested in hearing what you're doing, where you are, how you're preparing for the future. But there's two main ways I think of this, and the 2 things that you can basically always control is your income and your expenses. So to prepare ourselves for the future, we need to lower our expenses and raise our income. But raising the income is very, very hard, or almost impossible at this point. So most of what I'm going to talk about is lowering our expenses and diversifying our income. The first thing I think about with AI is
Community, and for me, community can mean both family and friends, then your local village. My wife and I are both very blessed to have larger families, so we have lots of brothers and sisters that we could, if anything really went wrong, we could both reach out to, and they would be there to help us. So having a big family, I think, is a great advantage, to have all those brothers and sisters that can help you out. And with a big family is your friends, your coworkers, whoever. Like, there's still coworkers of mine that I could call them up and they would be there to help me. There's friends that you make along the way that I think if you're generally a trustworthy person, then they can return that trust, and I count that as part of my community. On a more local level, whenever we first decided to move here to Romania, one of the things we did not like was how small the villages were, how there's, in the village where my brother is and most traditional Romanian villages around here, the houses are connected, and it seems like you're smack up against your neighbor. In this village, it's a little more scattered out, and that's one thing we thought would be hard to get used to. But now looking back, we love having close neighbors. We love having people there that say if your car battery dies, they can jump your car. They're there to help you, and you can be there to help them at any time. There's kind of a sense of security in a community that local. We also are part of a larger church here, and then which is part of a larger church that's connected to America. And so that once again is kind of a network of community. I don't think there's anything such as being self-sufficient, at least not for us. We can be pretty sufficient. We can be self-sustaining for the most part, but there's always going to be things that are going to come up that we're going to need community for. We're going to need somebody to help us. We can't do this on our own. Life's too hard to do by yourself. Life's too hard to yeah, make it alone.
The next thing I think about when I think about our homestead here in Romania and building it for the future is energy. Um, Energy costs here are extremely high. I've been very surprised. I think they're twice or three times the price they were in Western Washington, where we were. So we really need to work on keeping our energy costs low. And going into the future, I want to build more sustainable sources of energy. And some of those, I guess, the number one thing we're going to be doing next summer is I plan on putting on solar on top of my house. As long as I can save up the money to do that next summer, then that's going to be that's the goal of ours right now. Another thing is our wood stove. We have wood heat in the summer or in the winter, and we that's our primary source of heat in the winter. We do not have AC in the summer. We just use some fans to cool off at night and then close it up in the morning. And then, but in the winter, we heat with wood, and then we have floor heating that is for our that runs through our floors and also through radiators. So that's what keeps us nice and warm in the winter. So we've got that solved. Our wood costs are pretty high, but it's, I think, cheaper than most anything else we would have. So we hope to install solar. I think it would pay off within 3 years to have solar. And then as AI gets larger, most people expect it to run energy costs higher. And I, for us, for our home, we plan to try to lower or basically we get our energy costs to zero, other than wood, which costs right now about 500 to 1,000 euros, around 1,000 euros a year. I think is what it costs for us to for enough wood for our home. But then if we have solar for the summer, then that would work well. And then also, I want to install a heat exchanger for our hot water for in the winter, so that we can use the heat that's coming off of the stove for to heat our water also. So those are two of the things we're looking at to reduce our electric costs: solar panels and um, using wood heat to heat our hot water. And then the other one is water. And water's been a real struggle this year. It's been very dry. There's been a drought all over Europe. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but there's been the River is very low. And for me, we're very thankful here in this village. We have a lot of springs, and actually a shallow well at the bottom of my property. I'm hoping to be able to pump the water from there up to the top. So probably be installing that within next year, a way to pump the water. There's not any eggs in the chicken house? Okay, that's all right. So, so I'm hoping to be able to pump the water from down there up here up to the top of my property, and then basically that'll be my source of irrigation the next for next year. And then hopefully, if we have irrigation, we can have more food for our cows and etc. So energy is a big one for us to somehow minimize our energy costs. We're also planning to build a greenhouse that we could actually start our plants earlier in the winter, but that also bleeds into my next idea, which is food.
And so I think food is the reason that most of us actually do what we do. We have a homestead. We grow our own food. Isn't that basically the um, what's behind the reason to homestead is food independence or whatever you call it. But for us, growing our own food is more than just a novelty. For us, growing our own food is it needs to make economic sense. Also, we can't be losing money on what we grow. For us, our food comes from our animals and our garden. The first thing I bought when we moved here, as far as animals, was a cow. I was raised on a dairy farm, so I thought I knew what I was doing. So I bought a cow, but I didn't have a place to really keep her. But we built this barn then afterwards, and that was a whole, yeah, that's a different story for a different time. But because I knew how to take care of a cow, I thought I'll get a cow. I know what I'm doing with that, and then we'll expand from that. So had a cow, she had a calf.
that calf died. It got port wine disease, I think, and yeah, it died quite suddenly. And then she had another calf, which is right behind me here. And then, so we sell milk here on the farm, on the homestead, and I'm able to pretty easily cover her costs. She costs about 25 lei a day to feed, which is about $4 or $5 a day. And if I sell 4 or 5 liters of milk, that takes care of the cost of her. So she covers herself. That's a pretty important thing for us when it comes to food, is it needs to make sense monetarily, that our input costs are lower than our output costs. So how much we spend on our cow is less than how much she is giving us. The same thing for our chickens. We have purebred chickens, and keeping the flock pure. My input cost on them has been exorbitant because I've been paying way too much for purebred chickens, which is kind of one thing that I like. But over time, I'm hoping that we can recoup that cost by selling purebred chicks or purebred pullets, and then once again that'll be a financially viable source of food for us. So hopefully with them, what I can do is sell a purebred hen, purebred chicks, or purebred eggs, and I can sell them for a decent price, to enough that I can support the feed that I put into them, and then the eggs as a feed for us, as a food for us, will be a byproduct that's basically free. With the pigs, I don't think I'll ever get to that point where I can make it be a free food, but it is definitely a lot cheaper for us. So last year I did what I'm going to do this year, and that is bought pigs about now. And then as my garden gets gone, I can move them out there and put them in the garden, and they can eat the weeds, till up the garden, take care of bugs, pests that are in the ground. They did a really good job last year of taking care of all the comfrey root that's in there. We have a bad problem with comfrey, and so as a weed, and the pigs just devour it. They love those roots, and then we had way less problem with that this year. Hopefully unearth the potato bugs, take care of, have them freeze, a bunch of those things that it could be more sustainable. They'll still cost us money. There's no way I think we can get around it unless I would reproduce pigs, which we do not have the space at this time to be able to do that. So it's not really something we're planning on doing. But I buy these pigs, feed them the whey from the cow, the milk after we use it for butter, feed them the whey, and then I can have pretty low input costs as far as feeding them, and then raising them and slaughtering them probably in February. And it's great to know where your food comes from. It's great to be able to slaughter your own animals, to be able to feed your family, and it's a great thing to teach your children. My daughter comes out here and looks for cobwebs in the corner of the pen to see if Charlotte's anywhere around. So it's great for your children to be involved with the animals, and then also be involved with gardening. So the first part of food for us is animals. Next part is our garden. We're hoping to get our garden more productive, of course, as time goes on. And then once again, this bleeds into the other system of having a cow. We have a ton of output for manure, for compost. So that makes it very nice for that. It really helps our garden out. So if you can for us, it's building these systems that are codependent, that can rely on each other, and then they can produce. You can have your inputs a lot lower and your outputs a lot higher. So it needs to make monetary sense for us. Right now, we spend about $350 a month on groceries. That includes groceries, cleaning supplies, diapers, and all of that. I'm hoping to get that number down to about $100 if we can. And it'd be interesting to hear from people here in Romania with families our size, hear what do you spend a month on groceries. Here, if we're exorbitant, if we're crazy Americans spending like crazy, or if that's a good number to have. But I'm hoping to get that down to at least $100 or at maximum $100. And as we grow more of our own food, grow our own pigs, we should be able to have to only buy, say, diapers. We do use a lot of reusable diapers whenever it works, but diapers, wipes, cleaning supplies, salt, and sugar, things like that. As we grow the homestead, hopefully we can minimize those costs. So if we can build, basically the idea behind all of this is to build systems here on our home that we're not, once again, we're not self-sufficient, but we're sufficient. We can feed ourselves within our local village. We can feed ourselves within our local community. That we're not takers, that we're actually giving back to the earth. We're giving back to the community. We're giving back to the land so when we leave, we've left it a better place, and we haven't been a net drag on society. For us, that's very important. So hopefully, as we look at the future, I kind of have this 2-year deadline with my job that I put in my head. It might be shorter, it might be longer, I don't know. And I might be able to find a different thing to do that would be more resilient to AI taking over. But as I look ahead, I'm hoping that within 1 year we can have solar panels on our house, have a jalapeno greenhouse so we can grow more vegetables and food year-round in there. That we can have our grocery costs down to basically $100 a month is my goal. And then we can also so we can be basically self-sufficient. We can keep our costs really low, and that's the number one way we're building for AI. If it would take over our job, is lowering our costs, and then that will make it so that it won't really matter if we can't make as much money. That won't really bother us too much. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for watching to the end. This is another way actually that I'm looking at trying to diversify my income, is with YouTube here. So hit subscribe, hit like, follow along. Tell us what you'd like to see here on the homestead. Tell us what you'd like to see with this whole idea of American living in Romania, building a homestead here. Any questions you have for us, feel free to hit us up, let us know, and we'll try to answer them. But until next time, thank you.